We're told by so many of today's movers and shakers, Paul McCartney, George Monbiot and the rest of them, that we have to eat less meat or become vegetarian for the sake of the planet. But I'm going to take a very counter view to that. And I think for the sake of the planet and for the sake of our health, we need to eat meat. But we have to make sure it's properly produced meat, produced for the benefit of people and not for the benefits of the fertilizer companies and the grain traders and the rest of them, the merchant banks and the rest of them. Where I live on Exmoor, the traditional way of producing beef was with the red ruby, the Devon red animal, run on unimproved moorland grassland for 3 to 4 years, and that's how you produce your meat. Science now tells us that's the very healthiest meat you can buy, and it's got all the. It's not just nostalgia for something that's past. We now know that production system produces meat that's rich in omega-3s, it's rich in antioxidants like vitamin C. It's got this wonderful substance, this omega-6 fatty acid called CLA, which is a very powerful anti-cancer protector. All these things are in grass-fed beef, like that traditional Devon beef. And when you put animals in sheds and feed them on grain, they disappear from the food. And when your pasture's full of all those things that traditional pastures used to be full of, you know, that mixture of herbs and grasses which were adapted to that local condition, not only is it a very sustainable way of producing meat without inputs, it actually enriched the food, the human food. I'm going to finish, keep it short, I'll finish by a quote from an iconic American farmer called Joel Salatin, who's one of the farmers who's practicing this mob grazing. And this is what he says about grazing. Grazing can be done by almost anyone, anywhere, with any number of animals. It doesn't require combines, plows, tractors or buildings. It's the fastest way to sequester carbon, collect solar energy and rebuild soil. Grazing is truly amazing. Thank you very much.
And I converted to a 100% grass-fed dairy grazing herd. And all the professional advisors said that it wouldn't work, but unfortunately I didn't listen to them. And so I don't know how many of you are farmers here, but we did all the usual stuff, grass budgeting, etc., crossbreeding. These are cows that I've bred myself. They're actually a 3-way cross, and they're Jersey. You can probably see some of the genetics in them. They're Jersey, Friesian and Ayrshire. Mixed in. We did compact calving and so on, and it all worked. The problem was that the milk price was kind of heading south, and I was particularly annoyed about the high quality milk that we were producing going into commodity milk pool. So we then added a cheese business onto it, and we started producing a cheese called Cornish Yard, which is wrapped in stinging nettle leaves. Now, the result of all of this was that we've actually made our business highly profitable. We're actually debt-free, should be by the end of this year.
I just wanted to ask you, I missed what you said about what you did with Japanese knotweed. Do you just leave it and let the cattle get to it? Is that what you said or not?
Yeah, they'll go for it. You don't have to do anything. Right. They'll find it.
And they'll control it then?
They'll love it, yeah. Well, actually, there's another side of it, and it's that it's actually a member of the dock family. And so, I mean, weeds are only a symptom of conditions in your soil. So actually, if you loosen the soil by applying calcium, actually dock beetles will eat Japanese knotweed.
All right.
Great.
I just wondered, Ben, if you could tell us how much your vet bills are at the moment.
Well, I did look at they're quite kind of embarrassingly small. I think I spent £13.98 on them.
How many cows?
Well, at that stage I was running about 250. So,
Beefs are basically, they come from farming and from mixing with other farmers and being members of a discussion group like Ben. Yeah, so I'm like Ben, I'm an organic dairy farmer, and we try and graze outside as much as possible. This is 2 days before Christmas, and I'm giving the girls their Christmas present and wrapping it for them. And the reason why we went to grass farming and why we went organic is basically because we wore the farm out cropping. We used to have a rotation of maize and potatoes and cereals all jumbled up, and the grass was the steep bits. But what we found is that we had a build-up of pests and diseases, eelworm, black grass and all sorts of things. But the worst thing was that it got harder and harder to make a seed bed. And I remember being in one field, and we power harrowed this field 5 times to try and make a seed bed for potatoes, and all we were doing was cutting clods in two, literally. And there's nothing more exasperating for a farmer than the soil not yielding to him, if you know what I mean. So anyway, later in the year, I was out on the sprayer, and the neighbour came across the field and stopped me on the sprayer and said, my wife's put the washing out and you've started spraying, and she's allergic to all your sprays, and now she's going to have to burn the washing. And that was it. Next year we sold the sprayer and all the machinery, and just grassed the whole farm down.
Milk from grass. North Aston Dairy, a micro dairy, as I say, 12-13 miles north of here. We launched in the spring of 2006 with 3 cows. We've currently got 18 pedigree Ayrshire cows. I'd like to stick at about 20. We're part customer funded, so all the cows have been bought with money that's been lent to us by our public, actually, by our consumers, by our customers. And we're trying to get as much milk from grass as possible. And we've weaned ourselves completely off soya. I'm very pleased about that. We started the first 3 years with soya, and we've gone over to local beans as our source of protein. In fact, that came from a little bit of customer pressure. People were saying, we don't really like the soya, and we don't either. So that's worked out well. We're currently charging £1.05 a litre, actually delivered, and that provides us with 2 livelihoods from 18 cows without any form of subsidy. In fact, we actually have to pay money still to have the privilege of producing milk because of the quota system.